Fun fact: Bernie Ecclestone's eldest daughter is 65 years older than his youngest son. Another fun fact: the man that decided to bear children at both 29 and 89 years of age happens to be the same man that revolutionized the status of Formula One in the modern world. If you'd like to know how the formula of scoring Fun Fact 1, then you'd find a better answer by reading an article from a Taoist fertility guru. If, on the other hand, you'd like to know how he drove the legendary sport of Formula One to the apex of its greatness, then you're in the right place. A little more on the sport itself, however. Obvious to anyone is that it comprises a bunch of internal combustion engines racing each other on some squeaky racetrack, and that Lewis Hamilton is by far the best driver to have sat behind the wheel. Sorry, Schumacher fans. Also, that it makes tons of money, more than even Star Wars has made since its inception. But here's the thing: Formula One wasn't what it is today before Bernie's billionaire mind took the helm. And if there's one pairing that fits a positively correlated graph, it's Bernie's fortune on the x-axis and Formula One's fortune on the y-axis. As a result, I think it makes good mathematical sense to unravel the story of the man who devised the formula for success for this lucrative sport, and see how it sealed the grandeur of Formula One. Let's begin at the starting line. Steeped in history, 1930 to be exact, and situated in a sleepy village in Kent, southern England, was born the child of Sidney and Bertha Ecclestone, duly named Bernard Ecclestone. Born in the height of the Great Depression, baby Bernie did not find himself in a fortress of wealth and riches. His father was a lowly fisherman, and his mother was the one that cooked and seasoned the daily catch, i.e. the housewife. Expectedly, the Ecclestones were quite the penny-pinching folk and never wasted a penny on trifling endeavors. Taught to manage money with ample prudence, little Bernie grew up to become a shrewd money-maker from a young age. During the Second World War, Bernie negotiated with American soldiers to pass on their love letters to their local English girlfriends in exchange for chewing gum. During school holidays, Bernie got busy doing the newspaper rounds or picking vegetables. Unsurprisingly, he wasn't particularly stellar on the academic front and failed in all subjects except mathematics. In other words, as he would later discover, sitting in classrooms and exam halls was not to be his forte. Although Bernie later studied physics at his local polytechnic, Bernie noticed a growing interest in motorcycle racing. After he left school aged 16, Bernie's father urged him to get a job at a nearby gaswork. However, Bernie's heart belonged to engines and motorbikes, so on the side, he would look at the classified section of the papers and find second-hand motorbikes and parts that he could sell for a profit. On the way, he bumped into a chap called Fred Compton, whom he approached for a partnership. Initially, Compton refused, but later Bernie negotiated his offer, where Fred's property would be used to sell the motorcycles, with a small slice of the profits going to Fred's pocket too. As if by magic, Bernie Ecclestone formed the Compton and Ecclestone Motorcycle Dealership in partnership with his newly acquired partner. This venture quickly took off, and their showroom quickly gained a reputation for being the most immaculate one in town. Then, in 1949, Bernie Ecclestone jumped on the engine and began racing for himself. Aboard the 500cc Formula 3 series and competing in his local circuit, Brands Hatch, Bernie managed to score the occasional win. Not long afterwards, though, Bernie retired from the sport, having survived a spat of painful accidents, the last of which was when he crashed into fellow racer Bill Whitehouse and was hurled into the car park nearby. Ouch. Anyway, having seen more success in the race for money-making, Bernie Ecclestone left racing and returned to the chambers of commerce to make a buck once again. In the years that followed, Bernie got his hands dirty in a number of real estate deals, alongside his trade of selling cars and motorbikes. In fact, for the latter, his fortune skyrocketed as he acquired more and more sparkling showrooms and car dealerships across the country. By then, Bernie was already swimming in cash. However, in 1957, he decided to rejoin the world of racing, and became a manager of driver Stuart Lewis Evans. At the same time, he took control of the team that Lewis Evans was part of, the Connaught team. Although the team didn't score many wins, if any at all, and in the end, it all ended in tears after Lewis Evans died in a tragic accident when his engine burst into flames during a race in Morocco, 1958. Shell-shocked and shattered, Bernie left the sport once again. But the same episode presented opportunities later on for Bernie to return yet again, after an interlude of a few years. During his leadership of Connaught, Bernie became good friends with racer Salvadori, and, referred by Salvadori, Bernie later became manager of driver Jochen Rindt, as well as becoming a partial owner of the Rindt team itself. Tragically, Rindt was killed in 1970 in another accident, but was posthumously awarded the 1970 World Championship. Nonetheless, by 1971, Bernie had gained plentiful experience in managing drivers and partially owning teams like Connaught and Rindt. As a result, he was invited by Roy Taranach, the owner of the Brabham team, to purchase the team for himself. The team featured the trailblazing Australian driver Jack Brabham and stellar designers like Gordon Murray. Much to his negotiating flair, Bernie managed to steal the deal for a paltry sum of $120,000. Then began his Brabham years, which lasted until 1988, featuring numerous twists and turns in between. Under Bernie's tutelage, Brabham held the names of many successful drivers like Nelson Piquet, John Watson, Niki Lauda, and many more. And during the 1970s, the team even managed to bag some notable successes with the help of Gordon Murray's masterpiece of a design, the BT42, with its triangular cross-section. In 1979, though, Bernie opted to partner with Alfa Romeo and use their engines instead of the previously successful BT42. Although they were cheaper to field, they were heavy and unreliable. As a result, Brabham quickly fell down the tables and failed to score any notable wins in the next decade. By 1986, its top driver Nelson Piquet, who scored 2 wins in the 1980s, left the team, and it failed to remain competitive after that. In 1988, Bernie sold the team for $5 million, which is still quite the achievement given that he purchased it in 1971 for little more than $120,000. And being honest, Brabham was quickly becoming an old story by then, as Bernie's dominance in the world of Formula One was only breaking new frontiers. See, as a team owner, Bernie already claimed a decent share of influence in the running of Formula One. Parallel to his leadership of Brabham, Bernie played an active role in the governance of the sport. Most notably and game-changing was Bernie's role in negotiating the television rights of Formula One. This began in 1974, when Bernie teamed up with another old friend, Max Mosley. Much like Bernie himself, Mosley was another F1 veteran, having raced and managed teams himself, including even the morbid aspects of fatal accidents that regularly cropped up in Bernie's career. In partnership with Mosley, Bernie set up the Formula One Construction Association, or FOCA for short. FOCA's job was to represent the teams and their managers in the upcoming battle for television rights. In 1978, Bernie became the chief executive of FOCA and appointed Max Mosley as his legal chief. Then began their battle to secure Formula One's broadcasting rights, facing off their arch-rival with the name of FIA, representing the automobile makers, including the likes of Ferrari. The FIA was a formidable nemesis. However, with all the teams banded together, and all of them represented by negotiating wizard Bernie, FOCA was able to match up to the challenge posed by FIA. In the duel that ensued between FOCA led by Bernie Ecclestone and FIA led by Bailstra, things often became quite theatrical. Because although we know that Bernie was quite the devilish negotiator, Bailstra wasn't a man to quickly give in either. As a result, things often became a little theatrical. At one point, Bernie paid a bunch of armed guards to hold Bailstra at gunpoint in Spain. Bailstra would try to play divide and rule with the FOCA, hoping he could split the alliance of teams somehow and bring some to his side. But Bernie was too difficult to outsmart and eventually came out on top, After much back and forth and another round of Formula One's usual dirty tricks, Bernie and Balstra converged on what was called the Concord Agreement. The details of the agreement are mountainous, and FOCA secured two main victories. First, FOCA won a more equitable share of the profits for the teams, and secondly, Bernie and Mosley were given leading roles in the FIA's committee. And although the FIA continued to wield influence on rules and regulations, Bernie's place on the FIA's committee meant that he now held sway over the entire Formula One enterprise. What's more, due to Bernie's devilishly smart management of FOCA, he managed to secure 23% of FOCA's television revenues to flow into his own pocket. Unsurprisingly, when other team managers discovered the disproportionate share that went to only one man, Bernie had to fight another few internal battles. Nonetheless, after that, Bernie became richer than ever, and his control over Formula One reached an insurmountable high. As you may have gathered by now, backroom deals and dirty politics was quite normal in Formula One. To date, it still remains a secretive organization, shrouded in a cloak of multiple scandals. In 1998, British Prime Minister Tony Blair passed a law that banned tobacco advertising in sports venues. With tobacco adverts providing a large chunk of Formula One's revenues, Bernie went to have a word with Tony Blair. In another backroom deal, Tony Blair granted an exemption to Formula One, cowed by the threat that Bernie would move Formula One out of its fatherland, Great Britain. However, once the details of this exemption hit the television screens, a scandal broke out. Bernie couldn't care less, given that he had won his exemption, but Blair's once glowing reputation was tarnished forever. Still, the scandals, legal battles, and outcries over God knows what continued into the 21st century. But what's undeniable is that Bernie had turned Formula One into quite the sporting giant, making and breaking careers and repeatedly finding itself on the front pages of tabloid journals. Aptly known as the F1 Supremo, Bernie's net worth currently stands at around $3.3 billion. Mingling with celebrities and statesmen from all over the world, Bernie lives quite the elite lifestyle, despite his very humble beginnings. He owns an enviably rich property empire, once owning a stunning mansion in Kensington Park Gardens, which overlooks the mansion of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle. He travels in gusto with his fleet of private jets and a glitzy yacht, with a wife that's 5 decades younger than him. Blending 2 bowls of negotiating flair, a spoonful of backroom deals, and another pinch of Bernie's bubbling business acumen, the 89-year-old man has concocted a truly potent formula for success. So, which is your favorite Formula One team and driver? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. If you've enjoyed this, please consider giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing. Thank you all for watching. I will see you soon, continuing to share great business stories past and present, and whatever else happens in the business world. So thank you all, and have an excellent rest of your day.